The US dollar is going to be the reserve currency forever, not because it has a good store of value, but because that is the only currency that will efficiently help in global transactions. Having said that, now let us do a simple analysis on the various currencies that we can think of and sample and understand how these currencies would have performed relative to the dollar as a store of value. We will stack rank them. As you might know, some currencies will also have to pay the interest component taxation based on the prevailing tax rules in the respective countries. So factoring in all that and assuming that the interest rate is getting compounded, let us see the stack ranking, and then we will do an analysis of how exactly certain currencies become stronger relative to the dollar versus the other way around. What are the parameters? Is it just based on import and export? Let us understand more. Stay tuned.
Ever find yourself wondering why some currencies are strong and others are weak, even when a country's exporting a ton of stuff? It can seem super complicated, right? But what if I told you it's actually as simple as looking at a map of different cities and the highways connecting them? Well, let's take a little trip through this simple guide to the world's financial highways. Okay, so the first thing you've got to get is this. The US dollar isn't just another currency. Think of it as the planet's main economic superhighway. Every single day, a mind-blowing $10 trillion of traffic, we're talking trade, investment, you name it, is moving on this thing. No one's trying to build a new highway. Instead, every country is just building its own city roads that connect to it. And how they design those local roads? Well, that changes everything.
So our first stop is India. Let's imagine India as a huge, bustling industrial city. It's a place that's built for production, like a giant workshop that's plugged right into that main US dollar highway.
Now let's take a look at how this city is actually set up. India's economic roads, they're always busy, a little crowded, maybe a few bottlenecks here and there, with trucks just packed with goods heading out. But here's the key thing about the traffic. These trucks, they come in, they load up, and they get out of there right away. Almost nobody parks their truck overnight. The city planners, which is the government, they keep the road tolls, or interest rates, pretty moderate. They don't want to make it too expensive for all those factories to keep humming.
So what does this mean for its currency, the Indian rupee? Well, you get a ton of usage, but very, very little parking. The rupee is absolutely essential for doing business in the city, but it's not the kind of currency people hold on to for safekeeping. And over time, that means it tends to just slowly lose ground against the main highway, the US dollar.
So the simple takeaway is this. India's roads are vital for making things, for production, but they aren't the place where global wealth comes to rest. And that little detail is the whole secret to understanding its currency.
All right, let's head to our next stop and see a totally different model. Let's go to Japan. Think of Japan as this massive city with perfectly smooth roads and, get this, almost no tolls. A total free access megacity.
So Japan's city planners, for decades now, have intentionally set their tolls, their interest rates, at pretty much zero. And this has a really fascinating effect. It basically turns Japan into a funding city. Global investors can borrow yen for next to nothing, essentially renting cheap cars in Japan, and then they immediately drive that money onto the main USD highway to invest it where they can get a better return. So the traffic flows through Japan, but it almost never ever stops.
And this right here explains a huge paradox. I mean, Japan is a massive exporter, so you'd think its currency would be rock solid. But because its roads are just used as this cheap shortcut and nobody parks their wealth there, the yen is actually in this state of structural decline. Everybody uses the roads, but nobody stays.
Now for a complete 180. Let's head over to Switzerland, the premium alpine city. This city, it's not interested in having tons of traffic. Nope. It is all about quality, safety, and security.
The Swiss model is both simple and incredibly powerful. They've built fewer roads, sure, but the ones they have are spotless and unbelievably secure, backed by an ironclad rule of law. Their goal isn't quick in and out traffic. It's to attract the most valuable trucks and convince them to park for a long, long time. It's not a shortcut, it's a vault.
And that right there is the secret of the Swiss franc. Switzerland doesn't care about having the most traffic. It cares about having the traffic that stays. This intense focus on being a safe haven, a place to park your wealth, is exactly why the franc is one of the very few currencies that can consistently go toe-to-toe with the US dollar. Okay, so let's just quickly put these three city models side by side. You've got India,
heavy traffic, low parking, and a currency that gradually weakens. Then there's Japan, massive traffic, but even lower parking, leading to structural weakness. And finally, Switzerland. Limited traffic, but super high parking, which results in a strong, stable currency. Are you starting to see the pattern here?
This kind of brings us to the big question, doesn't it? If it's not about having the busiest roads or exporting the most stuff, then what on earth is the secret to a strong currency?
And the answer, it turns out, is surprisingly simple. Currencies don't get strong because of traffic. They get strong because of parking. It all comes down to where global capital feels safe enough to just pull over, turn off the engine, and wait, especially when the world feels stormy and uncertain. It's all about trust, stability, and security.
So now that we have this key, this parking principle, we can pretty much use it to understand the design of any other economic city in the world. So let's go ahead and fill out the rest of our map.
Next stop, China. Now this is a totally unique model, the gated mega factory. It's a gigantic industrial city, but it's one where the city planners have total control over every single road, every checkpoint.
See, in China's gated city, traffic doesn't just flow freely. The government sets the routes, and they control all the exits with really strict capital controls. What that means is wealth can't just come rushing in or go rushing out. So the currency, the yuan, it doesn't really float. It only moves as much as the planners say it can, which prevents both those big sudden spikes and those scary, sharp crashes.
Okay, let's move on to the United Arab Emirates. The best way to think of the UAE is as a perfect, super modern rest stop that's built right on the side of that main USD highway.
The UAE's strategy was just brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to build a whole separate road system, they just pegged their currency directly to the US dollar. They literally bolted their roads onto the main highway. This completely eliminates currency risk, which makes it an incredibly predictable and stable place for global business. It's the ultimate reliable pit stop.
And for our last stop, we've got Singapore, which a lot of people would call the gold standard. This is the premium financial hub, a city that was designed from the ground up with one goal in mind: attract parked wealth. Singapore just focused on creating a flawless system. It's incredibly efficient, it's spotlessly clean, and it has perfect rule of law. It's the kind of place where drivers choose to park their wealth, not because they're forced to, but just because the system works so darned well. And that reputation for quality and discipline is what makes the Singapore dollar so consistently strong and stable.
And so, here it is, the full map. You've got everything from the industrial city to the mountain vault, from the gated factory to the financial hub. Each country designs its city in a different way, controlling the traffic and either encouraging or discouraging parking. And that design choice directly decides the fate of its currency.
So if you only take one thing away from all of this, let it be this one universal rule. It's not about moving the most goods or having the cheapest roads. In the long game, currencies win by creating an environment of trust, an environment where people feel comfortable enough to park their wealth without being afraid.
And that really leaves us with this final image. The dollar is the highway that connects everything. China is the gated factory, Japan is the free shortcut, India is the workshop, Switzerland is the vault, the UAE is the rest stop, and Singapore? Well, Singapore is the control tower that's overseeing it all. Currencies behave exactly the way their cities are designed, and now you have the map.